You ready, Tony?
I'm ready.
All right, attention everyone. We're going to talk about how to win some online. My name's Alyssa Rodriguez. I'm your host for today. I am AAON's digital marketing manager, and I've been in this position for almost 2 years now. I'll be hitting my anniversary next month. And yeah, it wasn't always my dream to help people sell air conditioners. Like many little girls, I wanted to be a marine biologist growing up. And I did get my start in biology. So I graduated from Cornell University with a degree in neurobiology and behavior. I used to study wild birds for a living, and discovered in that journey that I really liked talking about my research more than actually sitting behind a computer and coding and being upset about the statistics. So I decided to try my hand at science communication and took a job working for a local aquarium where I was an educator, and then COVID came in and took away my ability to lead field trips because schools weren't happening anymore. And as a subject matter expert, decided to take all of my educational content online. I had a fantastic boss who completely trusted me to just start a brand TikTok account, and it was very successful. I used to be the Tony of the aquarium world, and I created some videos that reached over 1 million views and had a lot of fun producing that content. So I decided to pursue marketing full time and went to work for a marketing and digital product agency. So I've worked in a ton of B2B industries, supporting them as a writer, creating web content, social media content, advertisements, and found my way into the HVAC world. So I'm really excited to be here and to introduce you to today's guest of honor, Tony Mormino. Tony, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Tony Mormino. I've been in the industry since '97, so about 25 years. Graduated with an engineering degree, University of Florida, and then went to work for Trane for about 10 years. I left there and helped some friends start a rep firm in Jacksonville, where I was a part owner, sales manager, and sales engineer at the same time. And that's where I got introduced to AAON. Did that for about 10 years. Then I got sick of air conditioning and we decided to make some changes. So we sold everything we owned and we bought an RV and we traveled the country with the kids for about a year. That was a blast. Then we ended up moving to where I live now, which is in Asheville, North Carolina, and got back into the HVAC industry as a sales engineer. But when COVID hit, we were trying to find ways to get in front of customers online. And we started using Teams and Zoom and stuff like that. And then we slowly moved it to YouTube, LinkedIn Live. And that's kind of where HVAC TV started in its infancy. So yeah, and that leads me here today. Now I do that as part of my job full time. So.
Well, thank you so much for being here to share about what you've learned in your journey from, being like the folks in our audience today to becoming the host of HVAC TV. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about why we're here and why we're talking about social media and LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I think that, I never really put this together with this meeting, but the reason we started going online is for this reason, to get attention, right? So when COVID hit, everything shut down, we were like, oh my gosh, we got to figure out how to get in front of the mechanical engineers, the contractors. So that's really why we're here. And, without attention, there's nothing, right? Like, it doesn't matter what products you have or services you have. If you can't get in front of your engineers and tell them about it, your contractors, then it doesn't really matter, right? So attention is, in the marketing world, and I believe it's true in the sales world as well, attention is our greatest asset. Like, it's the most valuable thing we have, because there's a lot of players out there with good products, but if you can't get it in front of people, you can't get your engineers to lunch and learns, et cetera, then it really is pointless. So that's why we name this attention. And, attention is the goal, but really the goal is to sell more HVAC, right? We want to sell more equipment. And we can't do any of that. We can't get in front of people. So that's kind of my pitch on attention.
And can you tell us a little bit about why it is LinkedIn that's great for winning attention?
So there's, 5 major social media platforms, right? And we were trying to think, since we have an hour, what's the low-hanging fruit of social media for our industry? LinkedIn, 100%, right? So if you're thinking, I want to do more online, and I haven't really, where do you start, right? Do you start with TikTok? Do you start with YouTube? I would say 100% start with LinkedIn. There's a few reasons for that. One is that's where our primary customer lives, mechanical engineers, contractors, building owners, service techs. And it's easy to get in front of people on LinkedIn today, right? So you've got this thing called organic reach on social media. Has anyone heard that term? Organic reach. So it means when you post something, people actually see it, right? It's all predicated on supply and demand. So if you have a lot more viewers than you do producers, then you have a chance to get in front of a lot more eyeballs. Okay, so the organic reach on LinkedIn, if you've never posted on LinkedIn, you can go out of here right now and post something and have hundreds of people see it. Now that may not sound like a lot, but think of a room with a couple hundred people in it, right? Right, Tom?
Yes.
I'm going to pick on Tom a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So, that's why we talk about LinkedIn. It's got the people we want to talk to, and it's easy. The organic reach is super, super high on there right now. So I don't know if I forgot anything there, but.
No, I just wanted to add that, one of the great benefits of LinkedIn is that it's a great tool for both brands and for individuals. The best content is coming directly from the mouths of subject matter experts, and that's the real reason people are getting on LinkedIn in the first place. Statistics and studies will show that when you poll people and ask them, like, why are you scrolling LinkedIn besides just looking for a job and recruitment, they want to engage with industry thought leaders. They want to hear straight from the mouths of professionals. No one's getting on there to listen to brands like AAON. It's going to look like, a bunch of billboards. Imagine if it was just companies on there. And so we're going to share a little bit today about how you can leverage this tool, both from the brand and company perspective, but also, and more importantly, from the individual's perspective and as a subject matter expert. Just out of curiosity, who in the room either manages a social media page on behalf of your firm or has direct influence over the team who does? Okay, so we got a few in here, and that's fantastic, because part of the biggest hurdles is oftentimes getting that buy-in and getting support to invest in this. But to Tony's point, 50 people in a room who are solely your target audience with their attention on you is incredible. And one of the best reasons for using LinkedIn is because construction and engineering professionals make up one of the top demographics there. There's about 14.5 million. So to put that in perspective, that's 189.75 Arrowhead stadiums. So the Kansas City Chiefs, I think I might be the only Chiefs fan around anymore after these past few Super Bowls. But if you could just get in front of one stadium just full of your customers for free, wouldn't you do it? LinkedIn is that times almost 200. And there are many ways that you can leverage things you're already doing to get in front of these audiences. So one of the many reasons that we want to be on LinkedIn and be getting attention in the first place is because you're not always in front of your customers, and it's a really easy way to stay top of mind. Oftentimes in this world, you'll hear people advocating for building your personal brand. I think Tony and I both kind of have feelings about that language, but do you want to tell our audience a little bit about how they can use social media to sort of build that personal brand or reputation?
Yeah, so personal brand is the current way to say your reputation, right? If you cringe when you hear the word personal brand, like I do too, it's basically your reputation. Okay, so you can build that online by being a subject matter expert, sharing about your experience in certain applications, experience in HVAC, et cetera. So it's a great way to build your brand. Brand is built today on social. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but if you're trying to sell something today, to build a company's brand or a personal brand, it happens at scale on social media, right? And you just think, like, from a sales engineer standpoint, I remember sometimes during the year, I would sit down and look at my list of presentations I've given to my engineers, and I'd be like, I haven't seen this firm in 8 months, right? Or I haven't talked to anybody there in 8 months. So the way I like to think of social media is it kind of fills in that gap and keeps you top of mind, like Alyssa was saying. And you post something on a DOAS system on a school, and then maybe one of the new engineers at the firm you haven't met yet sees that and calls you. That's like the holy grail. That's like why we do this stuff, right? They call you. They have a good experience with you, hopefully. Everything works well, and now they're their DOAS person for 10, 20 years. So it's a very powerful tool, and I just can't reiterate like how many people see the content that we post. When you post consistently and do it in a way that brings value, we're going to talk more about that. That's like the most important thing. You'll be shocked. You'll walk into a firm, and you'll have people come up to you and say, hey, I saw your post. That really helped. I was curious about blah, 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 or whatever. So
Yeah, and to that end, brands can leverage these same tools to help boost the voices of your subject matter experts. So keeping the AAON name in front, getting the AAON name in front of as many eyeballs as possible can't happen without social media and that organic reach. And we have the ability to leverage content and leverage information that we're getting from our subject matter experts. And so whether you are managing a brand account or posting in your own individual capacity, you're able to stay top of mind when you're not in the room with those customers. So I wanted to just take a quick second to ask how we're using LinkedIn today. Raise your hand if you actively scroll on LinkedIn, maybe more than once a week. All right, we got a lot of active users. When you are scrolling, how many of you are actively engaging? How many of you are leaving comments? And no, we got some certified lurkers in the room.
Does that mean you leave that?
I'm a voyeur.
Yeah, we got some people who actually like posts or comment on them. This is one of my top tips for getting started if you're not already engaging with social media. One of the first rules is be a user of the platform. It gives you the opportunity to see what are other people talking about, what are my competitors talking about, what are they paying attention to, but also it's a really quick way to get in front of your customers and show what it's like to interact with you. Leaving comments or liking a post will say like, Alyssa Rodriguez liked Tony Mormino's post. So that gets shown on other people's feeds that I'm not connected to, and vice versa. And so it can boost reach for the both of us. Yeah.
On that, you mean I do repost stuff the
Yeah.
shy way sometimes? I just a quick repost. But I've always thought that the ones with the comments probably get looked at more. Do you have a preference? Like, do you always have to leave a comment, or does a repost still work?
Actually, at my previous job when I was working at a marketing agency, we ran an experiment just like this. And we were trying to figure out how does LinkedIn's algorithm determine what is valuable content? Because you'll notice everything kind of has like an exponential sharing life. So you'll share a post and for a couple of days, it will do really, really well, and then it'll sort of drop off. The way that LinkedIn seems to measure this is a ranking system. So it seems to think that shares are the most valuable type of engagement, followed by comments, and then the likes and reactions. But one of the tips that I was going to share today is that even more valuable than clicking that share button is if you can get permission from the original person who shared the content to use their photo and upload it as your own, it's going to have way more reach that way because LinkedIn really likes original content. So it thinks that if you posted it, that's a fresh post to share. And now you have two channels where that sharing, commenting, liking sort of share algorithm is spreading from. So that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So back to our usage, it sounds like we have a lot of really active users. We have people who are engaging. How many of you guys are actively posting on a regular basis? Anyone? Yeah? I love, we have a lot of people in the room too who are managing on behalf of the brand, so I know that takes away from your ability to do so as an individual. Certainly does for me, but I couldn't do any of that without our social media coordinator, Kennedy Salyers, so I just want to give her a quick shout out because everything you see on AAON's socials is all her, but we know that it can be really challenging to engage and post regularly, so Tony and I have prepared some do's and one don't of social media for you all today, and we'll make sure that there's plenty of time for questions because we are here to really have a discussion with you and help serve your guys' needs. So I want to start with exactly what I just said. One of the best things that you can do is just be a user of the platform. So Tony, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about your habits and how you engage and encourage engagement?
Yeah, so this is a poll. You can do polls on LinkedIn. That's a real good way to engage with your potential customers and also to see where they're at in the industry. This one we did was actually a little bit shocking to me. How do you stay updated on the latest HVAC industry trends? And you can see overwhelmingly they're online. versus calling the rep and in-person events like HR. So that was kind of telling. And, you know, I was thinking, like, when you asked how many people are actively using it and no one raised their hand, I'm thinking, when I was in sales, the last thing on my mind was posting on LinkedIn, right? Like, I got so much crap to do, and you might even leave here all fired up, and then Monday you go back to work and, you know, the shipment's delayed, you got to get a submittal out. So I get it. I would just encourage you that, you know, right now social's in a really weird space where you could get so much attention for little effort. Like, the ROI on it's huge. So either you as an individual, or if your company wants to invest a little bit of time in posting content that's valuable to your engineer, you will get a lot of people seeing it, you know? So that's my kind of deal on that. But yeah, you know, just like we're talking about being engaging, it's like any other social media platform. And if you're not familiar with how LinkedIn works, it's really like Facebook for professionals. Just think of it that way, okay? So you want to post stuff on there that, you know, it hits the mindset of the person who's on LinkedIn. And the same person who's scrolling on LinkedIn is in a different frame of mind than that same person scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, right? So it's usually business slanted content that brings them value. And I think we're going to talk about this a little bit, but the number one rule too, if you're taking notes, is, are you bringing value with your content? Right? Is the content selfish? Like, come buy my new thing. No one wants to see that. No one wants to see an ad. No one wants to see a new feature. No one cares about your business, your products, or anything. What they really care about is what you can do for them. Like, why am I stopping to read this? Oh, it tells me the difference between these two types of compressors. I probably need to know that when I'm talking to a client, right? So you got to think of it in those terms. So the number one rule is bring value. If you're bringing value consistently, everything else will work out. And you'll start being seen as a guy who wants to help, or a girl who wants to help, and people will contact you on LinkedIn, and, you know, you'll walk into engineering firms and people are like, oh, I watched your whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So adding value is the most key piece of building trust. It's one of the best ways to use social media, is to help start establishing that trust. And if you can provide something to your audience for free, they know that you're invested and that you care. So there are a lot of ways to do that in a really simple way, is even just being active in the comments. So you can, you know, invest in doing some polls and learn from your audience. I think I told this to the earlier session. I always encourage our team to set it up so they can knock it down. People love to be funny, and people love to be smart on social media. Like, ask questions that position your audience to be the hero. Let them answer. It's both a way that you can, you know, show humility and learn from them, but also give them the opportunity to come in and be right, or let them have the punchline. And so I think there are a lot of ways that you can do this. Sometimes it's polls. There are entire brands as well who make their entire strategy focused on being really great at engagement and being really great in the comments. How many of you guys are already familiar with the Wendy's social media? Okay, yeah, we have a few nods in the audience. They're one of my favorites. They're like famous for roasting their own customers, and they're famous for roasting McDonald's and their competitors out loud. So they've established this really like authentic and just funny brand voice, and they're famous for just being active in the comments, you know. So it's a really simple trick to getting a strong, authentic voice and engaging. AAON has also kind of dabbled in this, but yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to say, like, for this audience, you know, if you see an engineer post something, hey, that's great. You know, throw a little comment in there. If you want to build your reach on LinkedIn, that's a good way to do it. So just along those lines. So.
Yeah, and just like we mentioned earlier, like, your comments are going to be seen by other connections too.
Right.
And so, again, the goal is to win attention, and having your name appearing in front of as many eyeballs as possible. It's easy to do that just by leaving a little like or comment. Yeah, so AAON's been sort of experimenting a little bit with this sort of fearless tackling of our competitors out loud. We're not quite as brash as Wendy's, but how many of you guys have seen AAON's Prison Break film? I'm seeing some nods in here. If you were not aware, AAON put out a 9-minute short film, and it was a little experimental, I would say. Most of the time when we are creating value add content, one of the ways to do it is to be educational, right? providing folks with the information that they might need, arming them with that. But another way that you can provide value is simply through entertainment. We as a brand don't have nearly as much authority as somebody like Tony, who is a subject matter expert. And so the entertainment route can be a really valuable way for brands to get eyeballs. And so one of the things we did was we released this short film and then noticed that Johnson Controls very shortly after posted some film movie posters. And they invited the world to engage with their post by asking us, hey, what's your favorite film? And so Kennedy wrote back to them that, hey, our favorite film is the one we released last month, the one that inspired this post. And so that was just a way to make sure that Johnson Controls customers were seeing that AAON name. So we kind of insert ourselves into the conversation, and you don't have to do it quite so brash as an individual, but it is a good way. Yeah.
Using humor specifically, Tony, can you give us an example of one time you thought you had something good and it was funny and then it just flopped?
Oh.
There's a fear.
Yeah.
About
like every day.
Are fearful of trying to be funny sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with that. You know, we do some memes and stuff, which are, being funny is the hardest thing, honestly. And we're not comedians, we're just HVAC guys, right? So we play around with that sometimes, but you know, if you're going to get into making content seriously, 90% of what you do is going to fail. It's going to fall flat. That's why you see people making so much stuff. So
Yeah.
just be careful with that side of it.
Yeah, and entertainment doesn't necessarily need to be funny. I think the most important thing when you're controlling your reputation online, whether it's an individual or a brand, is just to be authentic to who you are. If you're a subject matter expert and you know a lot about a topic, going the education route all the time is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
If you are known for being a funny person, if you know your audience really well and you know what things they find funny, that's a good time or place to be funny.
You want to be,
but it's not necessary.
Yeah, and you want to do it in a way that makes the joke on you.
Mm-hmm.
Those usually go over real well.
Yeah.
You know, or you can make fun of contractors in a fun way. Like I always post stuff like contractors ready for startup, and there's this guy laughing his head off, you know, because they're never ready. That kind of little things.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
inside jokes are
Yeah.
really a great way to nod to I understand you, because again, providing value is really about making sure your audience knows that they're understood. So it's really about empathy. But we know that this is also, participating in social media is extremely time consuming. So Tony, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you repurpose content?
Yeah, so does anybody here do lunch and learns? I'm sure a lot of you do. So this is something I started doing a couple years ago, and I don't know why I was doing it before, but this small rig, so this tripod and these little remote mics, we've got one here and one here. If you want to create video content, that's really all you need in your phone. And a lot of times when I'm giving a lunch and learn, I'll set this phone on a desk right in front of me. I don't show the audience and I'm not recording. I mean, they might pick up sound on my mic, but really I'm just recording me doing the presentation. You're already doing the presentation, right? So you're just documenting it, you're just recording it. And I've never had someone say, you want to ask permission, say, look, I've got this video on me. Do you mind to share a few clips from it? And they've always said yes. So that's a great way to record content you're already doing. And you could take those little short clips. You could put, 5 clips together of a minute or two, put it on a LinkedIn. You could put the full thing on YouTube if they're okay with that. The other thing, and there's a couple examples there. So how many went to AHR? Right? So this little rig with the little mic, you walk up to your vendors, hand them a mic, say, hey, show me what's going on here. Literally like a 3-minute video. That's all you need to do. So that's another great way. You're already there. It's fun for them. You're promoting their products. It's a good thing. It's getting you out there. Let me see what else is on there. AHR show. Anyone get the AAON trailer in their area? You do open houses, stuff like that. Another great opportunity to get video, audio content. The thing I've learned is you want to basically document, not create, right? So creating content is, I'm going to sit down and write a script. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. That's a pain in the butt, and it takes forever. Hey, we got the AAON trailer here. Let's document it. It's pulling up. It's opening up the doors. We got people coming in. What's this new control thing? You get what I'm saying? Or if you're at the AHR show or if you're doing a presentation. So those are really big time savers because you're already doing it. You're just kind of documenting the content. And I know time is real important. Yeah.
Have you used the Meta Ray-Bans yet to do?
Dude, I'm dying to get those.
Okay.
I haven't used them yet. So what he's talking about is Ray-Bans have cameras in them now. And I actually saw somebody post a video, a service tech, he was working on a piece of equipment. I was like,
cool.
How did he take that video? And I was like, bro, how'd you get that video? He's like, Ray-Ban Metas. I'm like, oh my gosh.
For service techs, but-
Yeah,
but
that's a
this is another good use of it, yeah.
Yeah.
great use
I'm
case.
actually, I could be recording you guys right now, live streaming it, but
Yeah, do they
Anyway,
have
there's
regular
all kinds of
lenses
tools.
or?
yeah, they look good.
So, and Tony, when it comes to repurposing content, do you ever use the same content over and over or cut things up or?
Yeah, so if you go to our YouTube channel, first of all, there's nothing new on there that hadn't been around for 100 years. Like all the stuff on there is the same psychrometrics. It's hot gas reheat versus hot gas bypass, the digital versus VFD compressor. I mean, all these basic stuff. What Alyssa's alluding to is don't be afraid to share the same content over and over, because there's an initial fear like, oh, I just talked about that 6 months ago. No one's gonna remember
No
you
one
talked
does.
about it 6 months ago. A lot of the content I do is a rehashing of the same kind of story over and over, and you'll find what works and what people gravitate towards, and then you'll post that. And it's always like like the question we got earlier. Sometimes you're putting something together, you're like, oh my gosh, this is gonna just kill. Like it's gonna go nuts, and then it's like you post it, it's like crickets, and then the thing you think is silly gets 1 million views. You
Yeah.
really just don't know.
Yeah.
Can you give your take on like the time investment that you give for like short form content, usually what you see on like LinkedIn or TikTok, versus the time investment that it takes to do more long form content on YouTube?
Yeah, for sure. So if you're gonna do video content, so short form is usually like a vertical video. It's 30 seconds to 3 minutes these days. If you're going to do short form, if you're going to do video content, I would start with short form. That's the holy grail of content in terms of engagement is video. So that's a good segue into being self-aware. If you're going to create content, not everybody's wants to do video or is good on video. Some people, you might be a good writer. I hate writing. Like I just can't stand it. So I'll write something, but I'll use ChatGPT to clean it up for me. And then there's audio. You could start a podcast. There was a gentleman here, Jay, who had started an ASHRAE podcast in his local city. So he's the ASHRAE podcast guy. So he has on his podcast, he has his primary core audience, which is local mechanical engineer. I mean, that's a really cool way to use the content. So there's audio, which is like radio. There's video, which is like TV, and then there's written word, which is like newspaper. So those same three mediums have been around forever. So if you're going to do content at scale, you want to find the one you enjoy doing. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
And the long form I would do, like we're recording this right now. We'll put it on YouTube. We'll put it
Yeah.
on the podcast. If you're going to do a long form, I would say record something you're already doing. Because to sit down and create a long form video from scratch, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. So.
And I would add that all of your long form content comes with free short form content in there. One of the best ways to repurpose content is to take a 10-minute video, and congratulations, you now have 30-second sound bites that you can post for 2 months. If you can find it in yourselves to set aside an hour working block to social media, take that multi-minute video, find the best 30-second clips, and use a free scheduling tool to post one consistently each week. And now you've checked that off your list, because consistency matters a lot in sharing. Quality first is most important. And then, of course, having the ability to post it consistently can help you stay in front of those eyeballs and stay relevant. LinkedIn really likes that from an algorithm perspective. And then, what's up?
What's up?
Yeah.
Do either of you have any suggestions as far as introducing the idea of doing video or doing those contents? Let's say in a company where you have an older set of owners and they don't see the value of what you're doing and think you're just screwing off with a camera around the equipment.
Yeah, I think it's really just about just context and who is leading the room. One of the tips that we have for you all today is to be aware. There are a lot of opportunities you have where nobody's bothered. You just get to ask permission. No one ever says no. And I'm going to pause really quickly because I don't know if you guys saw it pop up on your screen, but on our screen, the laptops we were given said, hey, the battery is low.
Well,
So I thought it was plugged in. We got all these cords down here. But I think
This is the real
battery
world.
pack.
This is how content creation is.
Yep,
It's a miracle any of it ever works.
it's a good thing we are probably gonna post this
Did you find it?
as clips.
Okay.
I don't know if that is live.
So that's a common thing. Like what you're saying is you have one of the
Got her.
great. So if you're gonna create content as if you're gonna do it as an office, right? We want to do live PDH events online, right? Like stuff like that. You really got to get buy-in from the whole team, and it's got to come from the top down. That's one of the struggles we see all the time is you might have a marketing manager who's like, we need to do more of this. And they might even have a boss asking them to do more of it. Well, they're not HVAC people. They don't know. So the subject matter experts need to give them the time to do it. So you have to make a commitment from an office-wide standpoint. Or if you just want to do it as an individual, then do it as an individual. But yeah, and you're probably not going to change their mind if they don't
Yeah.
want to do it.
And that's why you're best empowered as the individual who is the subject matter expert. If you're able to speak from your own microphone, it's way better than relying on a marketing team to do that for you. It's one of the hardest challenges I think about hiring people who come from a pure marketing background is I don't speak your language. I have to engage many subject matter experts in order to translate and make content that our audience is going to find valuable. So it's a great question.
Or just call Tom. He'll come on with you.
Yeah, we'll do that next time. If Tony's unavailable, we'll get Tom, maybe both of you. And I think this is also a really good place to talk about how you also use content when you're out in the field and how you capture that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say this is like a really good ROI on your time. You're at a job site. How many of you take photos of your job sites? A lot of you do. Well, that's good. Then you have that bank of photos in your thing. Now you got to be careful with what you post if you need to get permission. A lot of the things I post, they're kind of incognito. You don't know where the job is. You're not mentioning the job name. You're not showing your contractor with his vest on and the name. You got to be super careful with that, especially if you're posting something and someone's not following a safety or OSHA regulation. So be real. I try to take pictures of, I know I'm going to have to get permission if I post this, but then I'll take other pictures, like I'll open the control cabinet and just take a photo. And then I might post something on like DOAS sequences of operation, right? Like that's totally not job specific, so that's not risky. But taking pictures at your job site, it sounds like most of you are already doing that. And that's a great way too if you're doing presentations, put it up on the slide. Here's a AAON unit, yada, yada, yada. Only AAON units, so you can't do any other.
Correct.
Any other
yeah,
brands,
you got that right. And as a brand, that is some of the best content that we get is when we get tagged in stuff from a job site, especially Brad and I were talking before the session started, like we love installation footage, helicopter content, crane content, that always does really well for us. I was fine sharing what our engagement looks like on this kind of stuff. For context, across most B2B industries, you're seeing like a 3 to 5% engagement rate if you're lucky. Our average for UGC or user-generated content, things that were provided by a real human, a real expert in the field, tends to get close to about 20% engagement. So it gets to that same argument of even as a brand, our job is to elevate individuals' voices because people buy from people, not from brands. No one's getting on LinkedIn to scroll through a bunch of billboards. They really want to be engaging with those thought leaders. So we did already touch a little bit on video. It is always really easy to just record something that's already happening and then take your favorite clips or even share it as long form content. But one thing we didn't touch on is how to leverage live events online. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you've done that, Tony?
Yeah, so this is kind of how we got started during COVID. I was talking about that earlier. We're trying to figure out how to get in front of customers, and about that time, LinkedIn Live came out. Does everyone know you could do live shows on LinkedIn?
Watch many of yours.
No? Good, thank you. So that's a great way to reach customers. And there's something about seeing it live on LinkedIn that has a different effect than seeing it live on like a YouTube or a Facebook, right? It gives it more, I don't know, respect in the industry because it's a professional platform, and they think people watch it and they think, wow, they're live on LinkedIn. They must have done something special. No, we just hit the button. We didn't do anything special. So live events are really good in that way. Plus you get a lot of engagement. And if you offer PDHs, that's a good way to do it. What you're seeing there on the right is we do what's called a PDH marathon once a year, where we do in one day we do 4 one-hour PDH classes. So it's a good way if engineers are a little bit behind, they can get 4 credits by coming to that. We do that on our website, and then we take that recording and we put it up on YouTube, and then we'll take that recording and we'll put it on our podcast. Then we'll take that recording and we'll break it up into snippets. So it's another way to use content where if you were to do it on Teams and you had 50 people there, that would be the end of that content, right? If you do it this way and repurpose it, I think between those videos, 4 videos, we've probably gotten 3,000 or 4,000 views on them. And now they live on YouTube. If you search on YouTube for a subject that's appropriate for those videos, they'll come up and people will watch them for forever. So yeah.
Have you had anybody watch one of your PDH courses on YouTube after the fact and then ring you up and ask for the PDH?
I've got about 5 emails I need to respond to right now. Yeah.
And you hand them out?
Yeah. What I do in that case is I hand them a blank one. I said, fill it in as appropriate for your local authorities, because some places let you rewatch things, some places don't. So it's really incumbent on them to, we're not going to go and try to, judge every state on what the requirements are. But we do have that happen quite a bit. So YouTube, we're talking a lot about LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I would say YouTube from a content strategy is a close second to LinkedIn in terms of our audience and what you should be doing, because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, as right after Google. So if you take a video like what we're doing here, or you doing a PDH, and you put it there, then it lives there forever, and it's evergreen, and it can grow and people can watch it. And then you could take that video, send it to an engineer, like let's say you're driving and he needs an answer to something, but it's longer than you can tell him in the car. You could say, hey, go to our YouTube channel, we got a video on that, just search for this.
So when you're doing a live LinkedIn show, is it invite only? Can you just open to anybody? Like how do you capture the people you want but keep out the people you don't?
That's a great question. So you can do it either way. We do both. Some of them are like TV shows where anybody could watch.
Mm-hmm.
They're
able to engage you, or is it like writing questions?
Yeah, they're able to engage just like any other live social media event. So, I'm surprised we haven't had any like competitors come in there and really, they come in there and watch it, but they haven't really caused any trouble. You can kick them out. I mean, you can get rid of them. But we do them. I like to do them what's called ungated, which means it's like a live TV show.
Okay.
You can promote that. What's great about LinkedIn it allows you to set up a live event and promote it ahead of time and get people registered for it. And the registration is super simple. And then when it's about to go live, it sends them an email and it goes live and it pops up on their thing. So it's a great way to get in front of people.
Does it also send them a notification?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if email is also not a successful channel for you because people are already on LinkedIn, it's a great way to pop up too, which kind of reminds me, do you want to tell the group a little bit about how you've been leveraging LinkedIn newsletters?
Yes, and does anyone here do a newsletter for your company? It's kind of like old school a little bit, yeah. Except for yours. Yours is great. I'm just kidding. So LinkedIn has a newsletter feature. Does anybody know that? Did anyone know that they had one? It's not a lot of people don't know about it. But if you're going to do a newsletter, I would recommend you do it in LinkedIn. Even if you want a way to grow organically, it's a great way to do that. For some reason, what happens is when platforms come out with a new product, like a newsletter, they want to push it. So right now, LinkedIn is pushing it super hard. If you've already got a newsletter, it's a no-brainer because you can put that content right in there rather than like emailing out a PDF. That doesn't get a lot of engagement these days. But if you're looking for a way to grow, that's a good way to do it. And remember the rule of providing value. Like, here's 3 things an engineer should know, or here's some resources for mechanical engineers, or, 10 mistakes we see when contractors are installing a split system unit, something like that.
Yeah, speaking of adding value, what are some of your top tips for providing that value?
I would say listen to the platforms in terms of how much engagement and views the content gets, and then you'll learn over time like what people are responding to. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I try to put myself, I was a sales engineer, right? So I'm thinking of like, if I would give this information in a lunch and learn, it's probably good content for an engineer to know. Your computer died.
I was gonna say it looks like the power strip is not live, but
That's okay.
quite honestly, I don't know that we have any slides that are like visually necessary. So I'm cool to keep going. If you guys are all cool with that, I apologize for the technical
Yeah.
difficulties in the tech focused session. I so sorry about that, but I think we can keep talking about adding value from a subject matter expert. From the brand side of things, it is really about sharing those voices. So if I have any advice for those who are managing brand accounts, it's to put as many of your subject matter experts in the driver's seat as possible. One of the ways AAON has been doing this lately is that we have given Stacey Stratton a video series. How many of you guys have seen her before yesterday's trivia video? Yeah, so we've been doing that because it's, again, best to have an expert who's talking directly to you. So I know it can be really scary and not a lot of people want to be on camera and on screen, but having that human face there can be really valuable. And so if that is authentic to you and you're not afraid to do it, it's a really great way to sort of subconsciously build that trust. And when you pair that with something educational or entertaining or both, and you're providing that value face to face, it can really humanize your content. And so as a brand, our goal is to feel as human as possible and to try to avoid feeling like it is an advertisement. We try to avoid too many like calls to action, things that are like, give us a call or visit this landing page or fill out this form. You really want people to be able to browse and consume that content and learn something, because you just want them walking away from their phone or their laptop thinking about your name. So
it's good. Does anybody, brand managers in here? Anybody want to comment
I'm
on?
not sure what you mean by brand manager.
Oh, so like a personal page is you on LinkedIn.
Okay.
A brand manager would be someone handling like an AAON page, or who do you work for?
Oh, HC and I, we're sales reps.
Right. So your HC9 LinkedIn page, do you have someone managing that?
We just brought a marketing person on board.
Oh, good.
We drag ourselves out of the dark ages. So we start with the real basic questions. But that's what
No. These
No,
are great. These
it's
are great
important.
questions. No,
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn, obviously, we got an old Facebook account, a Twitter account. Are these of any value at this point?
when you talk about organic reach, you've named the two that are the most difficult.
Mhm.
I would say if you already got the accounts and you could take the content you're already creating on LinkedIn and just put it there,
Yeah.
it's not going to do great, but it's better than nothing. But I wouldn't say we need a full-blown Facebook campaign for our brand.
I feel like Facebook's a cemetery. And you can't find the credentials anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that too much. LinkedIn and
Twitter,
YouTube
yeah.
would be the two I would focus on 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it depends who your target audience is, right? If you're super industry specific, find out what there's some industries that are very Twitter heavy. Same thing for Facebook or Instagram. Like for AAON as a brand, like as a manufacturer, we're positioned a little differently because we have a really wide variety of target audiences to connect with. So beyond just our sales reps, we also want to be reaching your customers so that we can attract them and drive traffic to you all. We have our own employees. There's 5,000 AAON employees, so Facebook's actually a great way to keep our own employees informed of what's going on. As a publicly traded company, we have investors to keep in mind, and we also have technicians who we view as sort of influencers, right? They're having those conversations with building owners, and they are found on a lot of those short form channels, so YouTube and being kind of the secondary Google. Technicians are on there a lot. Reddit is another one that AAON's not even on yet, but could be a really good place. There's a lot of HVAC conversation going on there. So it really depends who your audience is, but generally for this industry, LinkedIn is number one, and it's the lowest hanging fruit too because it doesn't require the investment in video. But it's a great question. Yes.
Tony, I had a question more directed at you. When do you choose to, for example, like at Ashray, you have like brand agnostic presentations, right? When do you make the decision of, oh, I'm going to say, hey, this is an AAON unit, versus showing it and being kind of non-disclosing or not trying to push your brands in any particular way, being a sales engineer to try and get more authenticity out of it?
If it's a PDH presentation, you got to be careful of that.
Right.
But most of our PDH presentations are veiled AAON presentations. I mean, it's painfully obvious they're AAON brand friendly, I guess you can say. But I try not to do. I might show an AAON unit, but I'm not talking about an AAON unit. I'm talking about the application. I'm talking about hot gas reheat. I'm talking about dehumidification. But the AAON unit's there, right? So that's a way to to promote a brand without really being like an advertisement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of the content. One of the slides we were going to show shows pictures of an AAON unit, but I'm talking about the refrigeration cycle. So I'm pointing towards a TXV. I'm pointing towards the evaporator coil, the condenser, and in every other shot, there's the AAON logo sitting there, right? So that's the way I do it. So.
Do you struggle with like certain brands, because outside of AAON, like maybe things that are very manufacturer specific, like hooks or things, like a certain type of air separator or something that
sometimes
people only make a certain way, so it's kind of obvious that you're representing the manufacturer?
I mean, sometimes, not really. I mean, we have products that are very unique and specific, and I'll be like, check this out. This is a unique thing. It's unique in the industry. More talking about the engineering of it than the manufacturer. If it's a legit difference, then yeah, it's fair game. You do have to be a little careful though. If you have products that compete against AAON, you got to be really careful with how you present those, and you got to be loyal to your, to who feeds you and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to make a few calls to the sales guys in the field about that, and that's just part of the business. But everybody's usually cool about it. Did you have a question?
Yeah, do you guys use, well, there's two questions. One, do you use tools that help you like cross-post everything at once? And then what those tools are? And then, like for parts or aftermarket parts, I'm assuming it's a different target audience, so do you use is there a better media platform?
Love that question.
Yeah.
I'll let you take. I don't use any kind of CRM or any tools for posting. Do you guys use anything for your brand? Or?
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah. So brand pages, company pages, and then I could address the personal side.
Yeah, for brand pages, Buffer is a really good free tool. Some of these don't always connect to every channel, so definitely look for a tool that serves what channels you're on, like YouTube and LinkedIn. We use HubSpot, but it is a fantastic tool because it's not just social media, that's actually a CRM, and so it also has a web CMS. It allows us to run our website. So the back end of our website is connected to our email software, the contact book, and also all of our social media analytics. So it allows us to track, and also our paid social media and advertisements. So it really allows us to pull everything into one space. So it's a great tool, but it comes at a higher cost depending on the scale of your organization. But there are still many great free tools that are social media specific. Hootsuite is another really common and popular tool for brands. But Tony, I think you use a lot of really great tools. Besides just posting, you might want to touch on some of the other really simple tools that you use.
Yep. So I use, from a content standpoint, a program called CapCut. So if you're looking for programs to edit videos, that's a real popular app for your phone, CapCut. And it's great because you can do it right on your phone. So you record the video on your phone, you edit it on your phone, and then you just post it to the apps directly from your phone. So the interesting you brought up the parts. So that's a whole different animal than what we do as account executives or sales engineers, right? Because you actually have a store.
Yeah.
You have a physical location. So I'm fascinated by the company that invests the time and money to do social right for a brick and mortar part store. I think it could be huge, honestly. And I would say the two apps you want to focus on are TikTok and YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
Those apps, hey, today at the shop, we've got a blah, 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 blah. Have you seen a yada, yada, come down, yada, yada, yada. Totally, here's what we got, come and see us. You could do educational too.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new A2L rated vacuum pump? whatever. Here it is. Here's 3 things to know. Blah, 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 blah. Come check out our store. Yada, yada, yada. These kind of things. They're super simple. The content is right there in front of you because you've got shelves of stuff to talk about. It's really cool. And also in the apps now, there's a locator feature. You know how when you post something, you could tell it where you are? The reason that's in there is because it's going to show it to a lot of people in your area. If you start doing that consistently as a brick and mortar store, you'll be shocked how many people see that online over time. So I don't know what the ROI is on that. The problem you're going to have is getting the person to do it in the parts store because you don't, you're not hiring content creators to work in your parts counter, right? You're hiring parts guys. So if you find the right person who's excited about that.
You got time, right, Chris? You got time.
So that was my question. So I run, there are 2 part stores.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, if we're posting on LinkedIn, should I post on my personal LinkedIn or would I post on, our company's LinkedIn
Yes.
page for parts? Because
Both.
because we just opened a new store and it's in a small town in Southern Illinois, so there's not a lot of people there and it's hard to get the name out and get business in. I mean, we have business from our contractors that buy our equipment, but we also, we have a store that stocks hand tools and bags and, AAON parts, and we want to get that out there.
I would do content on everything you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is what I would do. You would be shocked, I bet, as to how quickly people will start saying, "Oh, I saw this on TikTok. I saw this on that."
Okay.
Do you have like a free hot dog Thursday or something like that? Those things would be great.
It's pretty open, I
We
feel
also
like.
have to, we also have to look at drop shipping too, right? So
Yeah.
there's no other
Yeah.
online stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it could grow into something you don't even know.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about once you start doing it, you'd be like, why do people care about this? And that might be a whole nother business you could start. You just don't know. And then that's the beauty of making the content is you'll find out real quick. But, when we were talking about Facebook, that might be something too. When you find something that works, if you were to do the parts on Facebook, then you put some money to it.
Yeah. I was
Within
gonna
a
make that.
5-mile radius and a 10-mile radius,
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to see how that would go. I've never been involved in anything like that, but I think it would do well because you got to think in terms of the lifetime value of a customer who doesn't know. Like, how many times has someone come into the parts store and be like,
Every time.
I didn't even know y'all were here. I've been driving by this for 5 years.
Yep, 8 years we've been open, we still get that, so.
Yeah. But
So social media is where if it were me, I would be all in on it. Like, I would have a meeting, like, look, here's what we're doing, here's the plan. If you don't like it, get with it, because it's important.
yeah, I think we wanted to focus on organic or unpaid social media, but that's actually a great use case for paid because one of the best parts of digital marketing is that you can put a very small amount of money behind something and it can go really far. And so when you pair that with your unpaid posts, you can use your unpaid posts to learn what kind of content does the best. You can throw like $15 a day behind something and run a very small ad, but it's going to be served on a really targeted basis. So it's a really great way to reach a new market, especially if geography is important or relevant. We don't always have that capability. And so that's a great use case for some paid social, especially in a really niche field too. If you can do any kind of like paid search through Google, you don't have to have imagery for that, which is really nice. So all you have to do is like say, here's this, here's what our headline's gonna be, here is what the description of the product is. You can throw it in there and bid on keywords. And there's not a ton of competition for it, So that's maybe a strategy to consider as well.
Good stuff.
Yes.
So I've noticed a larger outreach whenever I'm posting photos of a job site and tagging the manufacturer. I'll reach people that work for that manufacturer and also other engineers. What are some other things that I can post that aren't job sites where I can reach that same outreach instead of just like my friends? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you hit on something that is important here, which is tagging the manufacturer or tagging just another party who is involved. So, most of the time you're probably going to be keeping your job sites under wraps or things, but if there are other partners, collaborators, suppliers that you're working with, if you want to tag your parts store or something like that, that is a really great way to expand your reach is when you're tagging somebody, those who follow the tagged group will sometimes see it, and so that's why you're experiencing that increased reach is either somebody at AAON shared it and now they're going back into that original post and interacting with it, or it's saying, so and so liked this post, so tagging is a really great way to sort of expand that reach.
Does AAON provide, like, I saw some of our competitors, they'll have like these short clips of just like, say the new alpha units that
Yeah.
we have. Do they provide us with short clips that we can get for us to post on LinkedIn, or is that?
I am so glad you asked. How many of you guys are going to Jeremy's Rep Central session today? It's the one that's called All New. If you're not, I really wish the computer didn't die for this part. But if you haven't heard, we're redoing AAON's rep portal. So reps.aon.com is going to be a lot nicer and easier to use. And one of the new tools that we are rolling out with Rep Central is going to be, did we get the computer back?
Well, not to the
Well, I'll continue on in the interest of time, but on Rep Central, we are rolling out a new thing called content toolkits. And so each content toolkit is a zip folder full of materials that you can use. Some are going to be ready to go. Some, we've templatized everything so that if you do have a marketing department or you yourself have the time to add your logo or add your contact info, there's a provided space for it. And each content kit focuses on one topic. And then within each one, you're guaranteed to find 3 things. One is going to be a presentation, so it'll have a PowerPoint. It will also have a recording of how to give that presentation along with a script you can use, so you can use it for lunch and learns or whatever you want. And then in conjunction with that, you're going to receive at least one pager or like printable brochure PDF. And then the third thing is that we'll include social media content that you can share. Usually it's going to be a graphic or PDF because we oftentimes will take that one pager and recycle it into a bite-sized thing so that you have a consistent story you're telling. And then we'll provide some copy and paste captions you can use or just some pointers on things you can use if you want to write your own. Those are all the 3 things that are guaranteed in each content kit, but in addition to that, those content kit pages will have additional links where you can just click in and go click share. So those are more of the time savers. Things like relevant podcast episodes. Like in the Alpha Class content kit, you'll find a link to the podcast episode we did on heat pumps. That's an easy thing to just copy paste that link and share it to LinkedIn. Or previous posts that AAON has done. If you want to just go into that link and just click the share button, there's your content for the day. And so we'll have several of those different content kits. We're going to try to upload them regularly. And then at the bottom of that content kit page online, there will be a form where we can really invite some more discussion. So you'll have the opportunity to share ideas for content kits that you want to see. Because I know certain markets are going to be focused on certain products over others. And so we really want to hear what the priorities are. We're not out in the field with you guys, and we need that to be a 2-way conversation where you're telling AAON what you need. Yeah. So I know that's a long answer, but I was really excited to share that one because we've been working hard to make that available to you all and create a process where we can churn them out very easily and make those accessible to you on a regular basis.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Did you guys cover you said you had one big don't of what not to do on social media? Did you hit that?
We did hit it, but not in exactly those words. And so the one don't we had for today was don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to try posting. I know it sometimes feels like a flop if you put something out there and it took some of your time and it only got in front of like 5 people. That's 5 more people than you had before. I think it's also really easy to lose sight of what success looks like because in social media, you hear big numbers all the time. Like, it's really easy to lose track of what success is, you know? There's maybe 30 of you in this room. If I got 30 things on a post, I'd be kind of sad and disappointed. But live and in person, I get 30 people's attention and I get to have a discussion with you. Like, that's really valuable to me. So yeah, our one don't for the day was just don't be afraid to try. You're already doing a lot of this stuff. It's just a matter of pressing record and taking 2 extra steps to post it.
That's right. Don't forget to plug in your...
Yeah. So thanks for bearing with us on that. That's all I have for you all today. Tony, any last words or?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks for joining us.